Hello and welcome to coverage of U.S. Nationals. Maria Bartholdi in the booth, joined by Jacob Van Lunen. Seth Manfield sitting at 5-0 versus Zach Medford. Also an undefeated record here on day one, and we are underway. Zach leads things off with the Plains.
Seth Manfield, former world champion.
Yes.
Currently ranked 11th in the world, as you see there.
All right, Tialani's Knight is going to start things off for Zach here. A really great 2-drop, especially if you can follow it up with something like a hammer skull.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just what Zach's deck is trying to do is be as aggressive as possible, and red-white, kind of the perfect dinosaur-y colors to do so.
All right, he's swinging in here. Seth Manfield, Drover of the Mighty, was a play for him, which was his pack one, pick one, notably.
I'm interested to see how Seth ended up putting everything together. His deck is kind of all over the place. He is playing 4 colors.
Oh, that's what you speculated, and there indeed we see 2 of them. Forest, of course, his main color is green and black, and a little mana fixing there with Unknown Shores.
Yes, so now Seth, he has access to all 5 colors of mana. He can cast a 4-drop this turn. He's basically exactly where he wants to be.
Pious Interdiction is the 4-drop Seth Manfield will play. He'll gain a couple of life and lock down that Knight.
Drover the Mighty, really premium card in this limited format. 1/1 that provides you with ramp fixing and the ability to just get huge for a 2/2.
Does the dishes as well, I hear. Grazing Whiptail is the play for Seth Manfield. A card at common that I think is just really strong. 3/4 stats, fantastic. Can block in the air. What more do you want? How about a Glorifier of Dusk?
It matches up pretty nicely against these 3-power creatures on Seth's side of the board. Seth could do some terrible things with any sort of pump spell or combat trick here, but his deck's a little bit light on those. That's not really the style of Magic Seth plays. This deck is very much a Seth Manfield deck, by the way.
What do you mean by that?
I mean the toughness creatures, the blocking, the trading effectively, playing for a long game. These are all things that are very much in Seth's wheelhouse.
Merfolk Branchwalker is the play here for Seth. Reveals a Plains. So it'll just stay a 2/1.
And that's just so powerful, playing a 2-power creature for 2, drawing a card.
Yeah, Evolve has turned out to be, just one of my favorite mechanics that I've seen since I started playing Magic. Commune with Dinosaurs follow up here.
Yeah, this card is great in Seth's deck.
He's just going to take a Plains off of it.
Yeah, it fixes his mana nicely, and he has all sorts of dinosaurs that he can find, including Awakening Sun's Avatar.
Did that make the cut?
It did. I mean, there's no way in this deck that card does not make the cut. That's the payoff.
For all of these shenanigans.
Look at that guy.
There it is. Don't tell Marshall it's a moose. Somebody said that it just looked like a moose to him, and he just had a midlife crisis on us.
That's not a moose. Oh, man. That's
kind of looks like one, though. I don't know.
You think that looks moosey?
Yes. There's a little touch of a moose to him.
I don't know.
Zach Medford going to swing in with the Glorifier of Dusk here. Able to gain flying for 2 life. Stormfleet Pyromancer is the follow-up play, which will deal 2 to that Drover of the Mighty. Dinosaur in play, though, for Seth, is making that Drover a 3/3. Go. Dang it.
Darn.
Well, could have killed that Branchwalker. Follow-up play of a Kinjali's Collar.
Yeah, Drover's a lot better than it would be if we were just a 1/1 all the time.
Yeah. Would you play a 1/1 for 2 that just added any mana of color to your mana pool?
Yeah, I would play that in a lot of limited decks. Absolutely.
Contract killing here from Seth, taking down that Glorifier of Dusk and netting him 2 treasure. Yeah, he's had absolutely no problems with mana this game whatsoever.
Not at all. His deck is pretty well built.
In swings the grazing whiptail as well as the drover. No blocks for Medford. Yeah, so Medford's plan was to get in attacks early and often. But like you said, Seth Manfield building a deck here that's just really good at blocking.
Yeah, when you're trying one of these types of decks, Seth's really good about like finding the range that he needs to be in against his aggressive and or mid-range opponents. And when you try to be mid-range, he's going to try to go one step larger. When you try to go aggressive, he's going to try to be just one step ahead. And this is one of the reasons why Seth is one of the very best players in the world. And I think he has proven himself over time to be one of the absolute premier limited players in the entire world. And he drafts very weird decks, too. So it's not only that he's just doing the right thing every time. He's doing weird stuff that's just awesome.
Run aground here off of no blue mana. We'll send the Sun Crown Hunters back to the top of Zach's library. Stormfleet Pyromancer down after an attack by that grazing whiptail. Comes right back into play.
And Seth essentially time warping there. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, bounce in this format, just very, very strong. And you have access to, a couple of good ways to do that in cards like Run Aground, Depths of Desire, Perilous Voyage at uncommon.
A lot of different options here for Seth in terms of what he is capable of doing. This 4-color monstrosity.
What's his mana base? I'm curious.
8 forests, an island, 3 plains, and 2 swamps.
All right.
But, as long as he has green mana, he's pretty well set. He's got lots of ways to explore with that green mana. He's got lots of mana fixing in general. Commune, Drover.
Oh, and there it made the cut. Belligerent Brontodon hits the table for Seth Manfield. I'll swing for 4 this turn with my grazing whiptail. Thank you very much.
Brontodon doesn't seem like the type of thing that would be belligerent.
No, I've got to agree with you there. It's the most peaceful of them, right? Legion's Judgment taking care of the Brontodon. Zach swinging in with the Thrash of Raptors.
Yeah. And I believe that it's... Is it only a 3/3 right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Seth, not too worried about that. It looks like Zach doesn't even have any cards left in hand, so Seth can swing back. He's ahead on life total. He's ahead on board. He has cards in his hand. Everything looks good for Seth right now. Is Zach going to fall to 5 after that attack?
Yeah. Atsakan Archer will finish off Kinjali's Caller, pass back to Zach, who just drew a Headstrong Brute, which not going to do much right now.
Yeah, and winning from here, pretty elementary for Seth.
It's really been a treat to watch Seth's deck kind of come together after we saw him draft it.
Yeah,
and we
I'm sure.
weren't really sure what he was going to do.
A lot of people watching the draft are probably like, this does not look very impressive, but Seth finds a way to put together exciting decks out of unexciting drafts, and here we're seeing that again.
I think the quote is, Seth finds a way, from Jurassic Park. And there you can
finds a way.
you can see the lists out in front of players as they were a featured pod.
But all of Seth's dinosaurs were female. No.
Seth finds a way.
You see frogs in the moon.
Yeah, this is kind of also, I just noticed all the colors at the top there under Seth's name. It's funny. But right, it's interesting to see how this format kind of evolves as we continue playing it. And Seth just really reaching in and crafting something that's completely sort of outside of the lanes that some people say, we're playing an Ixalan, either you're pirates, you're merfolk, you're dinosaurs, you're vampires, the end. Well, that's not necessarily the case. We get to see creativity and deck building here.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes Seth so good at Limited is that he understands the lanes that exist. He understands the ways that the draft set was put together in order to make it, work and to make there be functioning decks that are easily available to players. But when those things are not available to him, or when he's given a platter of things that don't fit into one of those particular molds, he's able to make something really strong out of what he's given. And we've seen time and time again. I've watched Seth over many years now, and he's always able to find a playable, if not very powerful strategy out of drafts and card pools that a lot of people would be really disappointed with. And I remember the World Championship where he won, where he was just dominating the draft portions, drafting the weirdest decks that people were just completely caught off guard by.
Really?
So just, again, like 4 or 5 color monstrosities that were splashing things. He was playing a lot of toughness. He got into these really complicated board states. Seth is something really special.
That was World Championship where he went in to the finals with 1 loss.
Yeah. Beat Owen Turtenwald in the finals there.
Players head into their sideboards here between games. Taking a look through Zach's pool, we see 3 copies of Thrash of Raptors in here. All right, let's check in here at one of our other feature matches.
Oliver Tomajko here against Woodrow Engle.
Looks to be a couple of aggressive decks trying to do what they do best. Nest Robber here for Woodrow in play versus a Headstrong Brute for Oliver. In comes a Nest Robber. Brute can't block. I wonder if Woodrow is just mono red.
That would be awesome. Stealing eggs.
Tillinolly's Knight there, the follow-up play. Oh, it says red-white, so he does have some white cards in hand that I see there. Stormfleet Pyromancer will take down the Knight after an attack there from the Headstrong Brute. And down goes the Pyromancer to a Lightning Strike from Engle. Nest Robber continuing to get those beats in. Tomajko will fall down to 15. Oh, Stormfleet Arsonist this time.
That's a pretty nice one.
Yeah, Oliver to sacrifice a permanent.
4/4 body also matches up really nicely here.
Tomajko does have some good stuff in his hand, including this Walk the Plank.
Wow, that's great on this 5-drop here.
Yeah. Off the ship, buddy. And a Pirate's Cutlass, which will immediately equip to the Headstrong Brute, which will smash in for 5.
And we're seeing both these players trade damage a lot. And, that's kind of a hallmark of this draft format. Most of the time when you're watching, you're not watching something like Seth's deck. You're watching decks that are trading blows, trying to find the perfect combat math to know which turn they need to block on in order to overcome their opponent.
Stormfleet Pyromancer yet again from Oliver will take down the Nest Robber there from Woody. Well, this is just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
So it seems that wasn't quite enough. I believe Oliver Tomajko able to take that game. He had the Cutlass. He had a creature in play. Perhaps he told Woody about a burn spell or some way that he had additional reach in his hand. And Woody going to pick up his first loss here. 5-1, still a pretty nice record.
Yeah. Good Magic player.
Absolutely.
Let's check back in on our main match here as we go into Game 2. Seth Manfield currently up a game over Zach Medford. Yeah, he didn't have access to his white mana. Sometimes it happens.
Sometimes you can only play half of your cards, and normally doesn't work out too well for you.
Have you drafted a deck in this format yet that you're like, yeah, this is the best thing I drafted so far in Ixalan?
I think so. I think it was probably just I had like a Merfolk deck that was perfect.
Yeah.
You know, you get like the 7 or 8 2-drop, 5 3-drop deck that just has like the perfect mix of tricks. Like you have a bunch of Rivered Herald Spoons and all of that. Those decks are good.
Turns out that's a good deck. No access to white mana in Zach's hand here, but as far as his creatures and spells go, doesn't need it. They're all red.
Oh,
but
wow.
he's going to throw it back.
Interesting. Looked like he cast this, at least one of those cards. Surprising mulligan.
Sometimes you have to ask yourself, say I don't draw my next land for a couple of turns if I only have 1 2-drop or something. I don't know. Mulliganing is one of the tougher lessons to learn in Magic, and it's not an exact science, of course.
It's definitely a great skill tester, and the best players in the world, one of the things that they've learned how to do is know when and when not to mulligan, and there are a lot of close calls, and drawing that line, a lot of people draw it in different places, and it's difficult. And Zach probably knows his deck and knows that if he's on the play and he can't find that land in 2 turns, that it's unlikely that he's going to be able to beat a deck like Seth's. Like if you don't have a 2, and we don't necessarily know that Zach did, and you only have those 2 lands, then it's going to be hard to keep that.
A question that I've been, kind of experimenting, asking myself when I'm considering mulligan decisions is, if I need exactly 1 card, usually a land, of a certain color, should I keep this hand or not, right? And usually if it's only one thing that I need, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to keep it. I don't know if that's wrong or not, but I've been more aggressively not mulliganing recently as opposed to mulliganing.
I'd do a lot of division, try to figure out how likely it is that I'm going to draw something in relation to how likely it is that I have a chance of winning if I don't draw it by a certain point. And then, if sometimes, if those numbers aren't very high, it's not like I'm just looking for 50%, because that's just for a chance at the game, This looks like a pretty sweet hand, though, from Zach.
Oh, absolutely. He has access to both of his colors. There's a Kinjali Sunwing in hand. Scries, and it's a plains. He'll leave that on top. And here we go on the place. Zach Medford kicking things off with the plains. Drowned Catacomb for Seth. Otepec Huntmaster is the first play there for Zach. Just a fantastic card. Help him power out dinosaurs early. Give creatures haste. Replay here from Game 1 from Seth Manfield, playing a Drover of the Mighty here on 2.
Yeah, what's really scary is that Huntmaster on Zach's side of the board can actually give Zach the ability to double spell a lot of the time. He's actually going to be able to produce multiple mana with that on a single turn in some games. It's scary.
And there you can see the haste ability Thrash of Raptors crashing in here for Medford.
And getting in for 3 damage there. Seth's deck, though, very interested in blocking, so the Kinjali Sunwing staying in Zach's hand, that's going to give Seth 1 more turn where he's able to tap his mana and have a creature coming untapped and ready to block.
All right, Seth, as you said, access to 4 mana. Drover will make any color as well.
Yeah, 4 colors from Seth, so the world is his oyster here. Oh.
All right, even more so now. New Horizons here for Seth. Will put a counter on that Drover of the Mighty and allow a follow-up play here. Goes exploring and finds the plains. Seeker Squire.
Seth's deck is so sweet.
JVL's eyes are just like there's hearts in them right now, watching the screen in front of us.
It's the coolest.
And I'm just like, yeah, Zach. Get crunching there with your creatures.
I mean, Seth's not looking like he's in great shape here, to be fair.
In come the Raptors and the Sunwing. Seth's creatures will enter tapped. There's a look at Kinjali's Sunwing. It's quite a price to pay to have your creatures enter the battlefield tapped.
Yeah, especially when you're playing against one of these aggressive decks like Zach's. When you can't block with creatures the turn they're coming into play, it almost feels like you're just casting nothing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this creature that can't block the turn it comes in. The next turn you're not even attacking with it most of the time.
There you can see some of Huatli Warrior Poet's poetry on Kinjali Sunwing's flavor text. Kind of interesting. Contract killing here from Seth will take down that Sunwing, kind of help out his cause. Throws it back over to Zach.
And Seth needed that to happen. That was an important part of his game plan.
More aggressive cards in hand for Zach Medford. I see a Headstrong Brute. I believe I see a Sure Strike, as well as a Stormfleet Pyromancer.
What do you think about Watley's poetry?
I mean, it's great. Like, if you can ride dinosaurs, I'm usually just like, hey, good for you. You've done it. You've become really awesome at something in life. You ride dinosaurs. And then they're like, no, hold on. I also write poetry.
Yeah, and I think that, one's writing ability, especially when it's artistic writing and like poetry, it's going to, lend itself to your life experience.
Absolutely.
And if you're the type of person who's riding around on dinosaurs, you probably have a really, really interesting life. And I want to read about that. I want to read poetry about that.
Yeah, I agree. Huatli, send us a message when you publish your first book, please. Thank you. All right, there's that Sure Strike in hand from Zach Medford. On that thrash of Raptors will deal quite nicely with both of Seth Manfield's creatures there.
Yeah, Seth was kind of a bit ahead on cards thanks to the Explorer, but there Zach caught right back up.
Seth's going to sacrifice a treasure here. Belligerent Brontodon is going to hit the table.
It's a big dinosaur.
Yeah, another enormous blocker here. Headstrong Brute from Zach, and he can't attack. Has to pass back. Brontodon holding down the fort.
A Sure Strike, definitely one of the more important cards for Zach in terms of getting through big creatures on Seth's side of the board. Now it's not in his hand. Seth going to be able to slowly work his way back into this game.
Desperate Castaways there, able to attack thanks to that treasure. Also attacking as a 3/3 for 2 mana.
The Brontodon is quite good in Seth's deck. I mean, he has a lot of toughness. Talked about it before.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Zach has much of anything in his hand to be able to deal with that Brontodon. There's the Pyromancer. He might be able to put together some kind of shenanigans here with an attack, but no. Even that doesn't get through 6 toughness.
Ooh, is that a hijack?
Oh, you drew a hijack. Interesting. Well, that will change combat math for Zach.
Yeah, and if Seth ever gets a little too aggressive here, that hijack could steal the game very easily.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Seth just content to hang back here, passes the turn over to Zach. And here, are we going to see that hijack? There it is, targeting the Belligerent Brontodon. Why don't you join Team Red-White over here, buddy?
Oh, wow, and now this caller.
Yep.
It's 3 power, essentially.
And smashed. Zach swings with the team. Nothing but a Desperate Castaways left back for blocks for Seth Manfield. Although we know he does have access to spells like Run Aground.
Yeah, I mean, he has a bunch of cards in his hand. Pass the turn with no action. Nope.
He's just going to scoop him up. Game 2 goes to Zach Medford off of a timely hijack, tying things up at 1 game apiece versus Seth Manfield, ranked 11th in the world.
Yeah, that belligerent Brontodon was exactly what Zach needed Seth to have to hijack.
All right, let's take a look in here. Scott Todd versus Jeremy Sager. Jeremy currently up a game. Both players undefeated here.
Looks like Jeremy's pretty far ahead on board right now.
Yeah, Todd up against it here. Not a lot of lands in play either for him.
It seems though he's already been chump blocking a bit.
There you can see Captivating Crew on your screen. One of the sweetest cards in red.
Yes. And he's a dancer.
And, I mean, the flavor text is say, we sail, we plunder, then we dance. Yeah. I love it.
I also love it.
Vampire Zeal, my favorite trick of the set.
You're really high on vampires in general.
I am. I love the vampires. We were sitting here, you know, and he said, vampires my least favorite tribe. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's my most favorite tribe to draft. You crazy?
And that's just a great pump spell in general, though. You don't need to be vampires. As long as you're aggressive, which you usually should be, then it's really nice to have 1-mana tricks like that.
We can see a Blight Keeper up there at the top of her screen with a Mark of the Vampire on it for Scott. Definitely helps swing a game back in your favor that doesn't look like it should be, but Captivating Crew is just going to go ahead and take a tango with the Blight Keeper for tonight.
Interesting. I mean, that creature was tapped, so Jeremy, he had the option to, take one of the blockers off Scott's side of the board.
Jeremy here lining up attacks. Able to pump that Fathom Fleet Firebrand one time.
It'll be interesting to see have a way to finish the game right now.
In they come. A massive swing here from Jeremy is going to lock things out. Jeremy will take down this match versus Scott Todd 2-0. Let's head back to our main match here as our players shuffle up for game 3. Yeah, that Blight Keeper wearing the Mark of the Vampire has got to be one of my favorite things that happened at Worlds for sure, was that deck that Christian Calcano drafted, which was a bunch of auras, including 4 copies of Swashbuckling. and some Blight Keepers to wear them. You know, I just love finding unconventional stuff like that and going all in, going ham, as the kids would say. But
those kids.
Those kids. I mean, Blight Keeper is a card you would just see come around the table, and to be fair, you still do, and same with Swashbuckling and all that kind of thing. But putting it together and making it work in that way for him was really entertaining for me to see.
Yeah, and obviously strategies like that, these aura strategies, they are weaker to removal spells, but the removal spells that are available in this format don't match up incredibly well against somebody just going all in with auras. So,
why do you say that?
A lot of them require the creature to have a certain level of power and or toughness. There are a lot of inexpensive tricks that give things hexproof, that let you punish people for doing things like that. Inexpensive tricks that give things indestructible, that let you punish people like that. And the format just lends itself to a lot of aggression in general. So, your opponents are incentivized to use their removal spells very aggressively. So if you play the auras last out of all the cards in your hand, you're oftentimes against an opponent who doesn't have any spot removal left in their deck, or in their hand, rather.
I've got to say, Dive Down, speaking of inexpensive ways to give things hexproof, has been like my all-star rising card since Ixalan came out.
Yeah, that's a card that was very low on people's pick orders right out of the get-go, but the truth is that combat tricks are way better than we thought they were coming into week 1 here. I mean, after a couple weeks of drafting this format, everybody's pick order on those combat tricks has risen pretty significantly.
Seth's going to throw his hand back, taking a peek at Zach's there. It looks pretty good. Both colors of mana, so, at least 1 2-drop. Bishop Soldier and a Territorial Hammer Skull, which is just my favorite common overall.
I think it might be the widely considered best common in the set.
Oh, really? Yeah, I love it.
At this point.
I drafted, I love vampires. I drafted a vampires deck the other day that I consider 2 cards away from being the absolute perfect vampires deck you could ever draft. It had literally everything you could ever want and more. But the Hammer Skull was the only card in my deck that was not a vampire.
That's a fine one to have not be a vampire.
Oh, yes.
Because
yeah. You're like, whatever, buddy, get in. We'll bite your neck later. Just help us clear out some blockers.
The thing is with vampires, you're flooding the board with all these smaller creatures, too, so they're often relying on, like, one big body to kind of hold back your team. And you can just punish them so hard with a card like everybody's favorite 2/3 dinosaur. I guess, or everybody's least favorite, depending on how you look at it.
I have a feeling we have different kind of proclivities in what we like to draft, JPL.
Yeah, Hammer Skull is my least favorite card of the set.
And
it ruins all of my fun.
It makes
always.
everything great.
Yeah. I'm like, come on. I was going to block. That's all I wanted to do.
We'll see if Seth likes his 6 here. Looks like it. He's thinking about his scry. Green, white, blue, black. Where's the red, Seth? Come on.
And Seth playing a 4-color deck. Mulliganing with a 4-color deck in Limited can be really dangerous.
Yeah.
Because even though his deck does have great mana for a 4-color deck in Limited, that's still not great mana by general magical standards.
Sure. All right, we are off to the races here. Game 3, Seth Manfield versus Zach Medford. Unknown Shores here for Seth. Might help with some mana issues. And that was a pretty good 2-drop draw there for Zach. Sky Terror.
Oh, man. Seth's up against it now.
Just a fantastic card. He's going to commune with dinosaurs, try and find some way out of this potentially. It's already looking kind of bad for Seth.
Yeah. I love the flavor of coming with dinosaurs. Huddle up with a bunch of dinosaurs. Like, all right, what's the plan, guys? Let's figure this out. Right now, the plan for Seth probably to find some type of colored mana besides green, so he can cast more cards. The Unknown Shores obviously can produce any color of mana, but
at a cost.
It puts you a little bit behind to do so. And Seth, while he was on the play, he also mulliganed, so he only has so many cards to work with, and a lot of the cards in his deck are ramp spells or cards that set him up to play his other big cards, and that's exactly what he was looking for. Yeah, a land that produces colored mana that is not green, and he found a land that produces 2 different colors that aren't green. So,
well, Zach, unable to find his 3rd land, swings in for 2 with the Sky Terror, dropping Seth down to 18, follows it up with a Bishop Soldier. 2/2 lifelinker.
Yeah, 6 cards in Seth's deck that are white, so besides that, he can cast any card in his deck.
Seth just passes the turn. No 3rd land yet for Zach. Swings in 4/4.
You have to imagine that Seth has something, right?
Yeah, run aground, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I'm actually somewhat surprised that he wouldn't have fired off a card like that, maybe on his turn, because now he knows that Zach does not have a 3rd land, and now he also knows now that Zach's not going to find a 3rd land on the following turn. But in doing so this way, he by Zach not hitting the land on that turn either, it means that Zach has this whole other turn where he can attack with the bishops.
All right, Bishop Soldier hits once again. Spike-tailed Ceratops was the play there for Seth. Just outclasses everything Zach has going on at the moment. Swings in for 4, dropping Zach down to 16.
And Zach with this great Sky Terror start, not working out so well now because he's stuck on these 2 lands.
Shining Aerosaur here for Seth. he found a plains this turn. And like you said, Seth's plan is to play some creatures that are really great at blocking. And if you have something like a territory hammer skull, well, that just changes everything. And he's got 3 mana now, but he's got 2 giant blockers to contend with.
And it's also a bit odd for Zach because he may have been sitting on some number of pump spells, cards like Sure Strike, and he hadn't really had an opportunity to use those for any amount of cards, and now he does. Because if he attacks both of his creatures, there's a decent chance that Seth would choose to block, in which case, he gets some value out of cards that have been stuck in his hand.
Sky Terror swings in. No fear, it has Manus. Frenzied Raptor here for Zach.
It's interesting that he chose to go with the Frenzied Raptor over the Belligerent Hammer Skull. Then again, Seth chose not to block on that previous turn, so...
Yeah, 4 power on that Raptor. Can tussle with the Ceratops if Zach wants to.
There we see Sky Terror.
Rawr.
What an awesome card.
It's great. I haven't yet had a chance to play with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did that had 3.
Are you serious with me right now?
I am, yeah.
Did you win that draft?
I don't think I did. I had some mana issues in 1 round, but...
What are you talking about? You only need 2 mana.
I mean, it doesn't, win the game by itself. Although it's pretty close.
Shining Aerosaur gets in for 3 from Seth. Ooh, Legion's Judgment in hand for Zach now, who's still kind of crimped on mana, but that deals with Seth's giant dinosaur if he wants to.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that he has the Ceratops...
Get in for 8?
And then he can get this off and then just attack for 8. I mean, Seth needs some type of trick here to protect his Ceratops. Otherwise, he's going to be in for a world of hurt. Ooh, he's going to be in for a world of hurt.
Wow, down goes the Ceratops. In comes the team for Zach.
And down to 4 now? Oof.
Did Seth just have nothing?
There's no way he had absolutely nothing. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Bright Reprisal here from Seth. Will take down the Frenzied Raptor and draw him a card. Seth Manfield falling to 8. Zach bumps up to 15. Throws it back over to Seth.
Still just 3 lands for Zach, but he's been doing just fine with those 3 lands.
Another Commune.
Don't think Seth has much in the way of sort of lifelink or anything like that, so he really needs to win this game the good old-fashioned way. The race.
The race is on. Plains was what Seth elected to take off of that Commune. Puts it into play and passes a turn.
Yeah, now the thing that's interesting here is that he's going to have to pass the turn because he'd rather his dinosaur tango with the Bishop Soldier than just stay back on defense because that represents a 4-point swing and his life total is reasonably low.
Vanquish the weak on the Sky Terror. It's good. And there's a Hammer Skull from Zach. Hits the table after being in his hand since the beginning of the game. Drover the Mighty for Seth.
And Seth looks like he may be tempted just to pass the turn back again.
Yep.
He needs to leave back both these creatures because of the Hammer Skull. It's giving Zach plenty of time to draw what he needs to deal those final 8 points of damage.
Mountain was the draw for Zach, so he was able to find his 4th land. Thrash of Raptors is the play. Throws it back.
And now Seth a bit flooded out, and Zach suddenly finds himself with enough mana to play all the cards in his hand. We could see Zach take down a pair of world champions back to back.
Wow.
It's like a very big moment for him.
Atsakan Archer for Manfield. 5th land for Zach on the draw here. Ooh, unfriendly fire.
It looks like Zach's got a nice hand here.
I see a slash of talons hiding out in there as well. Is that Stormfleet Pyromancer and a hijack. Once again.
Wow.
Wonder if he'll be able to hijack this game.
Looks like it.
He's going to take that Shining Aerosaur here.
And he tap down the 1/4 when he attacks with everything. He's only facing off against a 1/1 on the other side of the table.
Yeah. In comes the team for Zach. The 1/4 cannot block. Seth Manfield extends the hand. Zach Medford takes down this match 2-1 over Seth Manfield. And like you said, just taking down 2 world champions in this draft so far. Pow, pow.
Yeah. Zach Medford. Oh, man. Guys, I had to play against the world champion last round.
Okay,
I got lucky.
You don't have to. You don't have to play against one this round. Oh, wait. No, it's Seth Manfield. You do.
That's brutal.
All right, more draft action after these messages.